The world is made of dust, and to dust it shall return. But between those two moments, there is the clay. My name is Thomas, and my life is measured in the weight of the earth beneath my fingernails. While the plague turns the bodies of men into cold clay, I take the cold clay and turn it into something that breathes with the fire of life. My day does not begin at the wheel, but in the damp, grey belly of the riverbank. Before the sun has even kissed the cathedral spires, I am in the clay pits, waist deep in the cold muck. I dig for the blue vein, the heavy, stubborn, plastic earth that has lain hidden for 1,000 winters. It is back-breaking work. I must haul the heavy buckets up the slippery slopes, my boots sinking into the mire. This raw earth is full of stones, roots, and the rot of the forest. It must be cleaned, beaten, and wedged. I spend hours throwing the clay onto a stone slab, cutting it with a wire, and slamming it back together to drive out the air. If a single bubble of breath remains hidden in the clay, the fire of the kiln will make it explode like a cannon shot. I am taming the earth, teaching it to be silent and obedient before I give it a soul. The wheel is my altar. It is a heavy oaken disc, balanced on a stone pivot that I kick with my right foot until it hums with a steady, hypnotic rhythm. Thump-shhh, thump-shhh. I take a ball of prepared clay and slam it onto the center of the spinning wood. This is the moment of centering. If the clay is not perfectly aligned with the heart of the wheel, it will wobble and collapse, returning to the mud from which it came. I wet my hands with a slurry of grey water and press inward. The friction warms my palms. I feel the clay resisting, pushing back, until suddenly it yields. It rises up like a living tower between my thumbs, then sinks back down into a thick disc. Then I reach into the center. I press my thumb into the spinning mass, creating a void. This is the miracle of my craft. I am not making a jar. I am shaping the emptiness inside it. My fingers pull the walls upward, thin and even, defying gravity. The wet clay slides through my skin like silk. I use a wooden rib to smooth the outer curve, watching the light catch the spiral marks of my fingers, the fingerprints of the maker that will remain long after I am gone. A pot is only a dream until it meets the fire. After the vessels have dried to a leather-hard state in the shade of my hut, I must commit them to the kiln. It is a massive brick beehive, stained black by decades of smoke. I stack the pots with trembling hands, hundreds of bowls, pitchers, and medicine jars, each separated by small shards of broken clay. Then we light the fire. For 2 days and 2 nights, the kiln becomes a mouth of hell. I feed it seasoned ash and oak logs, watching the smoke turn from gray to a searing, invisible white heat. I do not sleep. I watch the spy hole, looking for the moment when the pots begin to glow with a cherry red light, then a bright orange, and finally a blinding straw yellow. This is the vitrification, the moment when the earth turns to stone. The heat is so intense it curls my hair and blisters my skin, but I cannot look away. If the temperature drops too fast, the pots will shatter. If it rises too high, they will melt into a heap of slag. I am the master of the furnace, holding the balance between creation and destruction. When the fire finally dies and the kiln cools for 3 days, I open the brick door to find a city of stone, ringing like bells when I tap them with my knuckle. The world is sick, and it is my hands that must hold the cure. Lately, the kiln never rests. The city leeches and the village herbalists come to my gate not for fine decorated pitchers, but for albarellos. Small, narrow-waisted jars that can be sealed with a piece of bladder and string. I make hundreds of them, my wheel spinning until my leg is numb and my back is a knot of fire. They need these vessels for their useless remedies. Crushed emeralds, bitter vinegar, theriac made of vipers, and stinking sulfur. I watch the apothecary's apprentices load the jars onto carts, their faces hidden behind masks stuffed with dried flowers. They handle my clay with gloved hands, as if the pottery itself could carry the pestilence. It is a grim irony. I spend my life making vessels to hold life-giving water, but now I am the supplier of the house of death. Each jar I fire is a silent prayer that the medicine inside might save a child or a mother, though in my heart I fear I am only making small stone coffins for their hopes. In 1348, the sound of breaking pottery is as common as the tolling of the church bell. Fear is a sharp blade. When the plague takes a soul, the living do not just bury the body, they bury everything the dead man touched. I have seen it at the edge of the woods, a growing mountain of shards. People bring the bowls, the cups, and the cooking pots of the fallen and smash them into 1,000 pieces, hoping to kill the invisible demon that lurks in the clay. I stand by this mound of broken dreams and look at the fragments. I see the work of my father and my grandfather shattered into jagged dust. It is a terrifying sight for a potter. We build for eternity, yet we are undone by a moment of terror. But then I realize, as long as they break the old, they will need the new. I am the only one who can replace the broken hearth. I go back to my wheel with a heavy heart, knowing that my labor is the only thing keeping the kitchens of the survivors from going cold. I am the maker of the second chance. A pot of raw clay is a thirsty thing. It will drink the water it is meant to hold until it turns back to mud. To make it a true vessel, I must give it a skin of glass. This is the glaze, a secret alchemy of lead ore, fine white sand, and the gray ash of the oak fire. The preparation is a slow poison. I grind the lead into a fine, sweet-smelling dust that coats my lungs and makes my joints ache with a dull, heavy coldness. I mix it with water and dip the fired pots into the vat. They come out looking dull and chalky, but I know the secret of the heat. In the second firing, the lead melts, flowing over the clay like liquid silver, bonding with the silica to create a surface as smooth as ice and as hard as diamond. It is a dangerous magic. Many potters die young, their minds clouded by the lead fumes. But we do it so that a man may drink his ale without the taste of earth. We poison ourselves to give the world a clean cup. I no longer go into the heart of the town. The gates are barred, and the air in the narrow streets is thick with the smoke of burning tar. Instead, we have the market of shadows. I drive my cart to the old stone cross at the crossroads, 2 miles from the city walls. I lay out my wares on the grass, sturdy jugs, deep bowls, and those endless apothecary jars. Then I retreat to the shade of a great elm tree and wait. I watch from a distance as the townspeople come out, their faces pale and drawn. They do not speak. They pick up a jug, look at the bottom, and lay down their coins in a stone bowl filled with strong vinegar. When they are gone, I return to collect the clean silver. There is no haggling, no laughter, no news of the harvest, just the clinking of coins and the distant sound of the death carts. My pottery is the only bridge left between my quiet hill and the dying city. I am a man of no importance. In the chronicles of the kings, my name will never appear. But I have a secret immortality. Every pot I throw has my mark upon it, not a name, but a physical truth. At the base of every handle, where I press the wet clay to the body of the jug, there is the deep, clear print of my right thumb. I imagine a time, hundreds of years from now, when the plague is a forgotten ghost story. Perhaps a farmer will plow his field and turn up a shard of my work. He will run his finger over that indentation, and for a brief second, his thumb will rest where mine is resting now. He will feel the curve of the wall I pulled from the void. He will know that in the dark year of 1348, there was a man who stood at a wheel, kicking the wood and shaping the earth, refusing to let the chaos win. My body will be dust, but my touch will be stone. We are the potters. We leave our shadows in the clay for the future to find. I am a man of smoke and clay, and the village keeps its distance. They need my jars, but they do not want my company. To be a potter is to live in a world of dust. My hair is gray not with age, but with the dried silt of the river. My clothes are stiff with the spray of the wheel. They look at my workshop on the edge of the hill and see a place of fire and strange smells. They whisper that the lead in my glazes turns the mind to water, and that the heat of my kiln comes from a darker place than just oak logs. In 1348, isolation is a blessing and a cruel mask. While the gossips in the village square breathe each other's sickness, I breathe the lonely smoke of my furnace. My only friends are the crows that sit on my roof, warming their wings on the heat of the chimney. I am a ghost who shapes the world from the shadows, an outcast who holds the comfort of every kitchen in his muddy hands. A jug without a handle is a stone. A handle that breaks is a betrayal. This is where the true skill of the potter is tested. After the body of the vessel is thrown and has rested until it is leather hard, I must create the limb that will carry the weight. I take a small lump of clay and pull it, stroking it with wet fingers until it stretches like a ribbon of silk. It must be strong, supple, and perfectly balanced. I press it to the damp shoulder of the jar, using my thumb to weld the two together. This joint is the weakest point, the place where the struggle between the vessel and the water is most intense. I think of the women who will carry these jars from the well, their arms aching, their hearts heavy with the news of the plague. I build my handles to be thick and honest, a sturdy grip for a world that is losing its hold on everything. When I attach a handle, I am not just joining clay. I am offering a hand to the survivor. There are days when the wheel turns with a heavier rhythm. Sometimes a man comes to me not for a cooking pot, but for a silent jar. Since the plague pits are overflowing and the consecrated ground is full, some have turned back to the old ways, the ways of ash and stone. I make these urns with a different spirit. I use a darker clay mixed with grit and sand to withstand a different kind of fire. I do not use glazes or decorations. These are somber, heavy vessels meant to hold the remains of a life. As I pull the walls of a cremation urn upward, I feel a cold shiver. I am making a house for the wind, a small, dark room where a name will rest in silence. To make a bowl for soup is an act of life. To make an urn is an act of witness. In 1348, the boundary between the kitchen and the grave is as thin as a shard of pottery. The kiln is a living beast, and it speaks in a language of color and sound. I do not have a clock. I have the spy hole. I sit through the long nights of the firing, my eyes red-veined from the glare, watching the transformation. First comes the water smoke, the damp breath of the clay as the last moisture escapes. Then the dull red glow of the bisque. But the most critical moment is the glaze melt. I reach into the heat with a long iron hook and pull out a draw trial, a small ring of clay I placed near the spy hole. I drop it into a bucket of water. Hiss. If the glaze is smooth and glassy, the fire has done its work. If it is bubbly or matte, I must stoke the flames even higher. I read the roar of the air in the chimney. A sharp, clean whistle means the fire is hungry for oxygen, while a heavy, thumping growl means the kiln is choking on its own heat. I am a translator of the flame, ensuring that the earth survives its baptism of fire. Every pot I make started as a mountain and will end as dust. I see the cycle in my own yard. Beneath the fresh clay lie the shards of my failures, the pots that warped, the glazes that crawled, the jars that exploded in the heat. The rain washes over them, slowly grinding the fired stone back into the earth. In 1,000 years, the hill will be made of my mistakes. But the ones that survive, the ones that find their way into the hands of the living, they are my defiance. As I clean the wheel at the end of the day, washing the gray slurry from my arms, I feel a strange peace. The plague may take the potter, but it cannot take the pot. The earth gave me this life, and I have given it back a shape. As the stars of 1348 rise over my kiln, I know that even in the heart of the void, there is a form. And as long as there is clay and a kick of the wheel, the story will continue.